Okay, it's Yalak again. This is lesson number 43 in the New Testament is Fake series. This lesson is entitled Idols, and it's January 30, 2017. I just want to look at the meaning of the word idol, right? And I'll start up by reading from Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 1. It says, Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it, for I am the Most High, your power. They're different. It's basically telling you don't use idols, don't worship them, don't have anything to do with them, and so on. There are different words used for idol in the Bible, different Hebrew words. I'm going to just mention one or two of them. I'm not going to try to look at all of them. Trying to make this video shorter, quicker one, because it's my third video for the day, really. And I want to look at the meaning of the word idol. Now, one of the words, well, I guess I'll look at two words here. Elil, it says it means basically good for nothing, vain, and nothingness. It's worthless, right? Speaking of false gods, something, it has no value, a thing of naught. So this is what the idol worshippers of different nations were doing. They were worshiping things that had no value in them because the Most High said He is the only God. Look at another word for idol, Gilul, and it speaks of, in the meaning, a log. Right? Because I guess they would cut a tree and carve or shape out the idol, the figure that they were planning to worship, out of that log. Right? So they would chop down a tree. And sometimes you hear scripture talk about their gardens, right? Because they basically chop trees in a garden and leave even a stump in the ground and carve the idol right out of that stump, and then that would be the god, and everybody would go there and give reverence to that idol, tree stump kind of idol, right? So this worshipping of idol is dealing with a statue, it's dealing with falsehood, it's dealing with something that is vain, doesn't have any value as far as the Most High is concerned. So He says His people should have nothing to do with it. From the online etymology dictionary, look at what they're saying about the word idol here, from the etymology of idol. Mid-13th century, this word idol from back then meant an image of a deity as an object of pagan worship. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because some people are using a picture of Jesus, even though they say He is the Hebrew Savior, they use a picture of Him, and they've never seen Him before, but they say this is what He looks like. And they say He's black. They've never seen Him before. But while it seems sensible, because they tell you they are just showing you what He looked like or showing you the color of His skin, the point is that even though they try to convey that seemingly harmless information, the scriptures teach us, like I just read in Leviticus 26:1 and in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 7 and 8, which I didn't read. But the scriptures tell us not to use images, right? because these images are actually your idols. And a few months ago, I was doing some reading on what the Catholic system says, right? Which they maintained from way back when they were setting up the Vatican, in the after the New Testament times and so on. And they're letting you know that the images are actually idols. So when you see someone in a Christian church, or look in your Bible where you have a picture of Jesus, or on a calendar, or in a Hebrew camp, or on a website, whoever that website belongs to, or so on, and they use this picture to say this is Jesus, and they're like white Jesus, or somebody else will say black Jesus, and this is what he looks like, and so on. Even though you say you are teaching truth, the fact is, it cannot be denied when you look at the meaning of the word idols and what even the Catholic system is telling you, that you are using an idol. And we are instructed by the Most High, and more light is shed on that with all these different readings that we have available to us, which some I'm going to read from, that you should not be using an idol, or an image rather, as I'm bringing out here, according to the instructions of the Most High, because that image represents and is your actual idol that you're using. The Catholic Church says, coming from the Pope, that the image itself is actually an idol, and so they use a lot of these images because they are worshipping the idol. The images are actually representing angels, fallen angels, or idols. And the significance is so strong that they actually revere the actual physical image as the actual fallen angel, or the actual idol or demon or god that they're worshipping. So that if you were to have a real physical god, let's take this trick Anunnaki then, that they try to trick us with, that there's Anunnaki. Let's say an Anunnaki being false, like a fake god, right? I mean, if you don't have the presence of that Anunnaki, then a picture or an image carved or drawn or printed in your printer of this supposed being is so strongly representative of that being that it is considered to be the actual being. Why? Because when you dig into the word idol, it actually tells you that the idol has, or is considered to have, the spirit of that being embedded in it. So it's like the spirit of that God inhabits the actual image or picture. And when I was in the Christian church in the early 90s, I heard some people talk from places in India and in what's the other place? I think it was, I can't remember now. I can't remember the other place, the other country. But basically they're telling you that sometimes they would make these statues and they would dedicate them to the gods that they made this statue for, and made the statue of, in the image of those gods that they're worshipping in their mind. And they would put a hole at the bottom or at the back of the statue, and through their seances and their rituals, the spirit would come inside that wooden or ceramic statue, that image, right? And would inhabit or stay inside of. And so if the thing was broken, then the spirit would escape. So sometimes what they would do when they're trying to cast out a demon, they said, or false god from somebody's house that was terrorizing them, or if someone got quote unquote saved in a Christian church and they want to get rid of these stuff, people would come and pray in their houses and so on, and they would smash and break those statues, because the spirit of the god that belongs to that statue or that idol was actually living inside of the statue. So you'd have to smash it and get rid of it, get rid of the pictures and so on of it and so on, right? So I think it's pretty clear from that, as you read on that, that they consider the image to be just as real as the actual God, because the God would come and surround or dwell inside of that image or statue, right? So when you use a picture of a white Jesus or a black Jesus, especially if you're trying to, well, maybe I shouldn't say especially, but even if you're trying to use a black Jesus picture to counteract a white Jesus picture, you are still doing the same thing. You are just doing it in a different color. But the significance of it is that it is about pagan worship, which the Most High says don't do. Now, again, continuing with the etymology of the word idol, in the mid 13th century, image, it means an image of a deity as an object of pagan worship. And they put pagan in brackets, right? Because it has to be worship other than worship of the Most High. It has to be pagan, right? It's something else. Because this is not worship of the Most High, because he says don't do it. So if someone is teaching you truth in so many areas, but then they got this picture of a white Jesus or a black Jesus, they're still doing something that's wrong. They are using an image of a deity, or they're using an idol in order to express their scriptural truth, which is forbidden to do. It's forbidden to do that, right? And so it's an image of a deity. An idol is an image of a deity as an object of pagan worship, from the old French word for idol, right? Graven image or pagan god. So, yeah. From the Latin idolum, image, mental or physical form. So what it's telling you, and you can link this with the other couple of videos I did recently about worshiping other gods, that these people were thinking in their minds. And actually I have some more interesting information that I want to put out on worshiping other gods, to shed some more light on the trickery of the nations and how they got their people to begin worshiping some of these gods, right? I learned some of that this week. But either mental or physical. So people thought these things in their mind and made these statues. Because since there is no Anunnaki, no one could have actually seen Anunnaki. It's something that they think of in their mind. I've never seen any proof of any Anunnaki. None. All I see is just stories of people saying all this stuff. The Most High said he is the only God. So anybody telling you 5,000 years ago that a god called Anunnaki came to them from some planet wherever, that's just really ridiculous, right? So it's a mental or physical. And so when you print that image, whether it's a black or white Jesus, you're still wrong. It's also used to deal with an apparition, like, as in a ghost, but used in church Latin for false god. So the word idol is used for false god. But remember now, if the word idol is used for false god, and the word idol is telling you that idol means, from way back then, in the etymology of the word idol, means image, then it's telling you an image that you print to teach in your church or even in your camp, that image is actually a false god, because you never saw Jesus Christ, whether he is black or white. So the moment you use that image of Jesus, whether black or white, they are telling you that you are printing and using and displaying in your church, in your camp, or on your website a false god. You are printing the image of a false god, because the Most High does not use images of himself in order to convey his truth. He says, do not use these images. Do not carve them. And I've told you many times that you are carving a graven image with your printer, whether it's a dot matrix or a laser printer, right? You're carving still, because the print head in your printer carves and burns out that image on the paper. And even with the older printers or typewriter, where you go tap, 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 and it makes all that sound, it's basically striking like a hammer, right? Striking the paper to put the image on the paper. And it shows up because of the ink that you put in it. And the hammer strikes the ink onto the ribbon, the ink and the ribbon onto the paper, right? So it's a modern kind of way of carving out the image that you're printing. And with a laser, it's burning it, right? So this word idol is a false god. So as much as we like our people teaching us all this truth, if they're using that, then we just have to be concerned with those things, and it has to be spoken. Like sometimes people try to argue with me and so on, and I'm trying to settle down some more with it. As compared to when I started, I was just, but I mean, it just has to be said. These things have to be talked about because people need to think of these things. The word idol is used as an image of a pagan deity, as an object of worship. So when you teach all this Hebrew truth, but you use that picture of a black Jesus, you are using the image of a false God, because that Jesus is not the real God, because God is not bound and limited by human flesh. So you are printing the image of a pagan deity as an object of worship. And so that image is the object of your worship, but you will argue back and say, no, I worship the Most High. Yes, you might worship the Most High, but it does not negate the fact that you are also worshiping another image or another God that is represented by that image that you have incorporated into your worship of the Most High. It is very clear, and no one can deny, that when you read the Hebrew scriptures, Israel worshiped the Most High, but they also worshiped other gods at the same time. They did both together. They mixed it up until eventually they just threw the Most High away. And then he threw them away and says, get out of my land. When you are very clear on looking at the word idol, you read up enough on it, you cannot sensibly deny that the picture of Jesus is representative of a God that you are worshiping. And when you look at what the word idol really means, it's clearly telling you that the very image is an object of worship. And this is from the Greek eidolon. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. It is a mental image, apparition, phantom, also material image, statue, and so on, right? In ecclesiastical Greek, the same word idol in its etymology is dealing with a pagan idol. So, in other words, there is no Kadash or set apart idol. All idols, all images used for religious purposes to convey your God or what he might have looked like, to say he was black, all of those images are forbidden because they are all pagan. That's what the etymology of the word idol is dealing with. So you might know the Hebrew bad, you might know all the laws and commandments and have been teaching them for 10, 15 years. You're just wrong. You are just wrong. You see, people have this kind of thing where just because you've been in this knowledge for 20 years and you've taught so many truthful things that everybody must accept what you are saying, and you cannot be wrong, and you just talk over the next person that teaches some stuff because only you alone are correct. It is utter rubbish. It is garbage. It is garbage. All of us are participating in the search for truth. The Most High says we should search, seek, find. And you can't tell me that every one of us is just going to get up and teach and are right all the time. People just need to be humble enough to know that, hey, right? And some of us, as I've said before, we've built so well, so strong, we can't bear to say no and to turn around. It's sad. It's sad. All right? Pagan idol, from Idus, dealing with form, shape, likeness, resemblance. Aren't those four words, form, shape, likeness, resemblance, exactly what is put forth to us when you deal with the word idol and carving graven images and printing them on modern papers, right? Or printing them with the graphic software that you use to make that same image of Jesus for your website and for your logos and so on. Those four words, form, shape, likeness, resemblance, is exactly what they did from ancient times when they make idols. They form out the idol, they make and carve out the shape in the likeness and resemblance of the idol that they're trying to make, which came from their mind. Since there was no Zeus, anybody who made a Zeus was doing it from something that they thought in their mind. I'm going to now make a god. I will call his name Zeus. Chip, 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 chop, 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 chop. This is what Zeus is. Form, shape, likeness, resemblance. Chip, 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 chop, 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 chop. This is a picture of Jesus. You see what I'm saying? A Greek word for image used in Jewish and early Christian writers for image of a false god, right? Hence also false god. So it's telling you that the word idol is dealing with that, is dealing with a false god. And Jesus or Yahushua or Yahushua is not the real God. Because when the Mosai said he was walking in the land with them, he's going to be their God and walking in their land, nobody ever saw Jesus walking in it. But they knew the Prince of the Most High was there, right? Because it wasn't Jesus walking, it was the unseen God, the God of Israel. And he never gave us an image to go by to say, this is exactly what I look like. He never did that. So anyone putting an image of his son and saying this is Elohim, is the second part of the Elohim or whatever, anyone doing that is clearly off track. The Germanic languages tended to form a word for it, for this word idol, from the reverse direction, from God to false God. Why would they do that? Because any image of God, period, any image of God has to be false. So these different nations are telling you exactly what an idol is. So that even the Germanic peoples are telling it in their own clear way as well, to say an image or an idol of anything or anyone you call God is false because it is not the creator, it is not the real God. Hence, image of a false God is what idol meant to the Germanic peoples. Cutting on some of it, the word idol also means untrustworthy. In other words, image of a worshipful being. And Jesus is worshipful because those who are teaching Jesus worship him as their savior. Even among the Hebrews that say, this is my savior, he died for my sins, or he died to bring the two tribes, the two kingdoms back together again. He's a worshipful one unto you, and that's why you promote him so much. But then it's telling you here that as a part of the etymology of idol, that image of that one tells that one that it represents is untrustworthy, or that image is untrustworthy. You cannot trust it because there is no truth to it. This word idol also meaning a person so adored, human object or human object of adoring devotion. And that's from the 1590s. So this human object of adoring devotion, like Yahushua, Yahushua, or Jesus, you can't tell me you don't adore him. You print his picture all the time, you show up his picture all the time when you're teaching, and say Jesus was black. You clearly adore him because he's your idol. But the Most High says, do not do this thing. All right, let me get off this etymology now. Let's go over to, so let me read this again here, as I mentioned it. Let's read these two verses quickly before I go to Wikipedia. Deuteronomy 5, 6, and 7. I am the Most High, thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Mizraim from the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other power before me. Okay, verse 8. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. The likeness of anything, no likeness of it, right? So it should not reflect, represent, have a semblance of, no reflection of. It should not bring to your mind that particular God that you are thinking of. You should have no image in your mind of a God that you're worshiping that lets you think of that God. So the moment you have a picture of a black Jesus, that is forbidden. That is very clear. I don't care how long you've been teaching this, how big your camp is, how many what do you call it, branches or whatever you want to call it that you have in different states or cities or whatever, right? It's just wrong. It's very wrong. And people are starting to get more and more annoyed, more and more. I'm seeing all these complaints about the camps now. it's getting really scary. It's getting really scary. It's like they don't care. They're becoming more and more like the Christian churches, that they don't really care what you say. In some cases, because that's not fully true. Sometimes they'll care certain things, but there are some things that you just can't touch with them. They don't care, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I have to teach what I'm driven to teach. I have to do these videos. I have to say the stuff. Like it is said, what you do not bring forth, it will kill you. It will destroy you. You must speak it. Wikipedia. Once I read from Wikipedia, then I can close this out. Idolatry from Wikipedia. False idols. Idolatry literally means the worship of an idol, or worship's dealing with religious devotion, usually directed towards a deity, right? So religious devotion, you're telling me all these people talking about this black Jesus with the pictures of black Jesus and so on don't have any religious devotion to him? That's exactly why they print the picture, because they have a religious devotion to him, right? And I've shown already from the etymology of the word idol that idol is dealing with image. So the moment you have that image, right, is you're dealing with an idol right there, mixing the clean with the unclean, the holy with the unholy, and so on. So it's dealing with the worship of an idol, or in more neutral language, a cult image. Now let's look at cult image quickly. In the practice of religion, cult image is a human-made object that is venerated or worshipped for the deity. See, that a human-made object, or I could say a human-printed object, where you print the stuff on your computer, or a computer-generated image, software-built image. That is a cult image, made for a deity or made for a worshipful one. And is not Yahweh or Jesus a worshipful one? So it's made for the deity, spirit or demon that it embodies or represents. Cultus, the outward religious formulas of cult, meaning religious practice, right? So, printing these images of your God, whether it's Jesus or some other kind of God, is a part of your religious practice, and it's forbidden. The cult image itself is worshipped, right? And they'll tell you, no, they don't worship, no. And I don't know. Let me just move on, because that's going to take more longer if I say that. Okay, cult of images is the practice of worshipping or venerating religious or cult images representing divine figures. Is not Yahweh Shai divine? That's what they teach, right? Common in a number of ancient religions. Listen to this part. Common in a number of ancient religions, the practice continues most prominently today in Hinduism. The Abrahamic religions all specifically ban idols and idolatry. The Abrahamic religions all specifically ban idols and idolatry. The Abrahamic religions all specifically ban idols and idolatry. So why is it that an Abrahamic religion, or what we call Hebrew Israelite movement or so, is found using printed images of their God and of the son of their God, or of that demigod, what I call demigod, Jesus? Because the Abrahamic religions all specifically, and these are Gentiles saying this stuff, all specifically ban idols and idolatry. In other words, they all specifically ban the use of carved, chipped out, shaped up, formed or printed imagery of their gods, or of their worshipful beings, or of the ones that they pray to or put their trust in. All have had internal divisions and disputes as to what constitutes the proper or improper use of images in religion, and many Abrahamic religious sects use or venerate images with varying degrees of fervor, right? That sounds kind of confusing for them to throw that part in. But at least we know for sure that when you look at the etymology of the word idol, as I mentioned before, it does not allow you to use an image of any worshipful being and not say that that is a false god. Idolatry has been considered as the worship of false gods, and I've shown already that the worship of these false gods has to come through some kind of or would usually come through some kind of a cult image, printed or carved image, right? Like on your printer or however else, right? Because you have to make the image to represent the God that you have never seen with your eyes. Nobody saw Zeus. Nobody saw Thoth. Nobody saw all these gods, right? And none of us saw Jesus. So how come you have an image of him and you're saying that he's black? You never saw him. Even if he really did live and he really was your God, you are forbidden to use his image. Because you are clearly taught, do not carve graven image. Do not. So even if Jesus was your real God, he would have then still been wrong. It would have still been wrong to carve his image and print his image and so on, because you are commanded not to make any graven image, period. So if you could see your God, you are still forbidden from making an image of him and publishing it to the world. These icons and these spiritual ideas and images and so on are the embodiment of the divine, or what they consider divine, right? They are a means to focus one's religion, so with your mind and thinking, one's religious pursuit and worship. In the traditional, okay, I'll skip all that stuff. They're just basically naming out different countries and nations that have dealt with these images. Alright, okay, let me close it here by just reading this part. The definition of idolatry has been a contested topic within Abrahamic religions, with Muslims considering the Christian use of the cross as a symbol of Christ and of Madonna in some churches as a form of idolatry. Now, as far as I see it, whatever people want to contest and argue about and so on really matters very little to me, because the Most High says just don't do any of this image stuff, right? He says just don't do it. So in closing, the Most High did not reveal an image of himself. He never did it. The reason why people made all these images of all these gods over the thousands of years, the reason why they did that for these thousands of gods and not of the Most High is because the real God they never saw. They never saw him. You look at all the stuff that said they saw God and so on. Is that giving you any kind of image to say you can draw this and so on? Okay, let's look at this verse here that somebody might be concerned about. Exodus 24:10. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. And they saw God, the next verse says they saw God and did eat and drink. Now, when I say they never saw God, I'm saying like how you would look at Jesus, right? And so you can paint a picture of him and say, this is what he looks like and so on. Or you can see me or see the person beside you or something like that, right? Now, if it's saying here that they saw God, he still never gave them any image that they can come back and say, I saw God and this is what he looked like. He never gave any image. So whatever this is saying here, whether it just means his presence was there with him in such a strong manner that one can say, I had some definite interaction with him, or whatever, however it works, my point in this video is that they saw no image that they can come back and say, this is what he looks like and we're going to publicize this. You think if they saw, look how easy it was for the Israelites to go into transgression until the Most High said, the day I brought you out of Israel, out of Egypt, you transgressed. And you're telling me that the day they come out, basically right away, he's saying that they actually saw him physically and can tell all kind of details about his face and everything and his hands and whatever. And nobody was tempted enough with all the other temptations that they gave into over the next while till they reached into captivity, that nobody says, I'm going to draw this picture of him and publicize it. Come on. Now look at what it describes. There was under his feet, they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet paved work of sapphire stone, as it were the body of heaven in its clearness. Now, if you say you saw me, and I had on black slippers, that was under my feet as I was standing on the grass. Does that give any image, a picture of people, a picture of me to people? Can you give a picture of me to people based on just that description alone that tells what I really look like, how tall I am, how fat I am, how skinny I am, what color I am, and so on? Does that give any picture? All that would just tell people is that you saw me and I was wearing black slippers and I was standing on grass. That doesn't give an image of me so that you can print, so that anyone can print that and say this is what he looks like, right? So the Most High didn't give anybody no image, right? He did not reveal an image of himself to people, because he already said don't deal with images of worshipful beings. Do not. So instead of revealing image though, what he did was he revealed himself through his word. Now we know he reveals himself in creation and so on, right? And so on. But we're talking about in terms of instructions. His primary way to interface with him was through his instructions. He revealed his word. Psalm 147, 19 and 20. He shows his word unto Jacob. That's how he revealed himself, not through pictures.